And as we said, welcome to Your Money, Your Life with Sherrill Braswell this morning. And he's going to be talking about real estate trust. What is a real estate trust?
It is a type of a stock, but it is in very basic terms. These are companies that own different types of real estate. Okay. And you can, it's traded on New York Stock Exchange as any other stock is. Now, when I say they own real estate, these are properties that are income producing properties.
Okay.
So they're buying a piece of land or an existing building, and then they are renting that building out to somebody else. Tractor Supply, Home Depot, all these folks utilize real estate trust, and they rent that building from the real estate trust.
Oh wow, I did not know that.
So you can become a landlord, and profit from the rents. That's very, very simple, basic explanation of what a real estate trust is. And the great thing about real estate trusts, by law, they have to pay out 90% of their income as dividends to their shareholders.
Right.
So what does that mean for you and me? You're going to get an above average dividend off of these folks, when you own these stocks.
Right.
And when you get into the point of wanting income off of your investments, think about this idea. Instead of me having to sell off some of my shares of stock to generate income, I can take a dividend of, like I was looking, we were doing a review with a client yesterday, and their dividends are averaging 6.8%. So they have that income stream, and they never touch their principal.
Right.
Never touch the principal. And over time, normally, the dividends are increasing. Because I can tell you, when we started out with these folks a couple years back, their dividend stream was running around 5%.
Mm-hmm.
So it's increased almost 30% in that period of time.
Why are these stocks more predictable than most regular stocks?
It's because because the real estate trust has to pay out most of their profits. Mm-hmm. Then they're going to be paying an above average dividend to you and me, and it doesn't have the swings that traditional I would say traditional stocks have in that income stream. So that's why I like them. They've got to pay a higher dividend, or because they're paying out most of their money in dividends, they tend to be higher than normal. And when I look at the history on real estate trust over time, the thing that has always appealed to me, and I'm not a rocket scientist by any stretch of the imagination, but I just look at the history on different things, and they tend to have a higher dividend on average, and it tends to be a lot more predictable.
Right.
Because of them having to pay out that large amount as dividends.
Yes.
They're not allowed to keep the money. So
now, aren't you supposed to diversify your portfolio?
Yeah. And the real estate trust, within that world, there's all kinds of diverse types of property.
Right.
Think about this. There are real estate trusts that own and rent out single family homes. Think about that. There's a real estate trust that owns individual rental houses. There are real estate trusts that own every kind of store you can imagine. Mm-hmm. There are real estate trusts that just manage office properties. So it may be a high-rise building, it may be a single-story building, but office properties is what they manage. There are real estate trusts that I can say they manage dirt, they manage farmland. They manage farmland. There are real estate trusts that own farmland. There are real estate trusts that own timberland. So that and there are also people that own apartments. Real estate trusts that own casinos, gaming properties.
Oh, yeah.
Real estate trusts that own hospitals or own medical parks, doctors' offices, laboratories, research. You got research laboratories. I mean, so you can just find every type of, to me, any sector of the economy. You can find how real estate's tied to it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And so that way you're able to do all kinds of exposure, for your investments. Real estate trusts that own cell towers. And think about that. If you own cell towers and you own, what do we call it, data centers, literally warehouses that house the servers and things like that.
See, these are things, Sherrill, that the average person, including me, do not think about.
Yep.
Wow, you have given us a lot of,
And this is always crazy to me when you think about this. 10 years ago, what was a data center?
Right, exactly.
We didn't even have them. I mean, they were just a little blip on the horizon. And now, my gosh, it is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Getting data centers up and running to meet the demand that's coming along with the computers and all that they're bringing out here to us.
Absolutely. Well, there's so much in the news now about inflation.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that affect the real estate trust?
Again, you look at the history. I just made some notes on that. Right now, our inflation rate is, good grief, what is it? It's running. I'm going to be nice and say it's running at 8 or 9%. I'll be very nice and say that. When inflation goes up, usually real estate prices are going to go up.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you think about this: if that real estate price goes up, there's more of a reason. I mean, your landlord can come back and say, "Hey, got to raise the rent."
Exactly.
So, their dividends, their profits are going to go up over time, and that just helps you stay in touch with, stay up with inflation. And back in the late 70s, and I remember this. Interest rates went up a lot.
Yes.
I remember we bought a house in 1981, spring of '81. And the best deal in town, we had 50% to put down on the house.
Mm-hmm.
The best deal in town happened to be the State Employees Credit Union.
Yes.
But it was 16.5%.
Woo!
For a mortgage, for your house.
Yeah.
For your house mortgage. Fortunately, it didn't last very long,
Right.
A few years, and it started coming on back down. But, people still had to buy houses. Well, during that time, the real estate trust, when you compare it to other types of stocks, they did about 3 times better than the regular stocks did. So that and I'm hoping this year we're going to see a good rise in the real estate prices, real estate trust share prices.
Right.
We're hoping it's going to go up.
Gosh, good information. Just really good. These are things, Sherrill, that you bring out so many things that give us food for thought, and we don't think about until we hear it from you. So, I do appreciate you talking about this, because not everybody knows a lot about real estate trust, but we do now. We know more now because you're educating us.
Well, I like to study stock market.
Yeah.
And all stock market is just a reflection of the business community.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
that's all this goes. I mean, you know, you're a business owner, I'm a business owner. Some years are better than others.
Right.
And, you know, so that year you're not going to make as much.
Yes.
You know, some years are great, so you make a lot more. And so your stock market is just a reflection of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just this is what's going on in the world right now in the business market. And so, you know, people are wanting to buy ABC stock because these guys are doing really well right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's that simple. It's not a complicated thing, but I like real estate trust because it's, in a sense, it's concrete.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you know, we own this space, we own this parking lot, we own this building. And so people can see it. It's easier, to me,
Yes.
it's easier for people, once you have a basic understanding, it's a lot easier to understand real estate trust than a lot of other stocks. I mean,
Right.
I like things that are kind of intuitive.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
they're not too cerebral, you know,
Right.
but just
Exactly.
day-to-day things that, like, you know, hey, you know, Home Depot rents this building from, you know, ABC Real Estate
Mm-hmm.
Trust. They pay X number of dollars. They have a 20-year lease on this building. So what does that
Right.
mean? My income is going to be steady.
Yes.
It's going to be predictable.
Yes.
I know these guys have a long-term lease, and a lot of real estate trusts, their average lease is like 15 to 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that means you know you're going to get a check
Yes.
during that period of time.
For that. Yeah.
And even in the pandemic, all that craziness when a lot of things closed down, it was incredible the number of real estate trusts that still generated or collected, you know, over 97% of their rents.
Wow.
You know, people wanted to try to keep that location if at all possible.
Right.
And,
Well, that.
you know, it's an interesting thing to read, and it's a great way to build income, you know, for your
Absolutely.
retirement years. You can get out here, get, like, again, my client, we're doing a review the other day, you know, they're getting over 6.5% income and never touching their principal.
Wow.
And so
that's cool.
That makes
is pretty
sense. You know
cool.
what? If you can do that, that's what
Yes.
you want to do.
Oh,
Obviously,
absolutely.
Not touch your main investment
Right.
and just live off of your dividends. And you know, the dividends off of real estate trusts tend to be, you know, I call them steady eddies. Even if the economy is not great, the history on real estate trust has been very good.
Mm-hmm.
Has
Yeah.
been very good. You know, they people paid their rents,
Yes.
paid their rents, and which is, you know, my retired clients. What are they concerned about? How much is my check?
Yes. Yes.
When's
but-
it going to get here? How's the
Uh-huh.
rest of my stuff doing? How's the, you know, how,
Exactly.
You know, how's that doing?
But
So,
people do pay their rents. Good point, because they want to stay in business.
Mhm.
I mean, they want to. They're in business.
Yeah.
What are you going to do if you don't pay your rent? They're going to kick you out, and
Yeah.
your business is going to be gone. So if you want to stay in business, you got to pay your rent. So I can just see where real estate trust is just a great way to go.
And think about this, in all the conversation we've been having here, have we talked about you're the guy who's going to get the phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning that my toilet's broke?
Yeah.
No, you don't have to worry about that.
Right.
Because, you know, the real estate trust is a professional company,
Mm-hmm.
and that's part of what they do. Obviously, is physical management
That's exactly
of that
right.
property. So you can be a landlord and not have to deal with that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know there's some people who love that. I mean, I have friends that, you know, I call it flipping houses.
Mm-hmm.
They love it.
Yeah.
You know, they're used to that, getting that phone call and taking care of it. But I have a lot of folks who don't want to do that.
Don't want to do
You know,
that.
they want some type of an income stream and not have to worry about that day-to-day stuff. So this fits the bill for that. This really takes care of that.
Well, this has been very interesting information. I hope you take something away from this. Sherrill, while you're here, I want to bring something up because you've got a little bit of time this morning. So somebody sent me an article yesterday it was from California. They didn't send it from California, but I mean, California law changed Monday of this week to the wage, the minimum wage is now $20 for
Yeah.
restaurants. Restaurants.
Man.
And
Well,
they, in that article, they interviewed the business owner, McDonald's, Chick-fil-A was one interview.
I bet, yeah.
And they said, what are you going to do? And then they also interviewed the employee. Well, the employee said in California, this still ain't going to help us because in Los Angeles, the cost of living is so high. And I'm thinking, well, then move. Move. Golly. But anyway, these poor business owners were saying, I'm going to cut hours.
Have to. I mean, there's only...
It's a trickle down.
Yeah, unfortunately, because we'd use Chick-fil-A or McDonald's as an example. They obviously are students of their own business. They know that there's only so much that can be brought in, that they kind of know what their income's going to be based on their past and some metrics about what growth we should have in the future.
Right.
And working on the line at McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or wherever it is, I really don't think that was ever intended to be a job that you did if you wanted to have a home and a family and 2 or 3 kids and a couple of cars and things like that. I don't think that job was intended to fund that kind of lifestyle.
Good point. That is a good point.
It was meant to be an entry-level job where, a kid in high school or college or
working
wherever
their way
it was
through college,
can work part-time and, have a living wage. I mean, when I was in school in Chapel Hill, I worked in 2 or 3 different restaurants there in town. And, of course, the benefit there was you got to have one meal while you were at work. Because the pay scale was definitely, people talk about $20 an hour. Seriously, we were getting $2.30-something an hour.
I remember when they were
so I don't understand how they can stay up. Well, the only option they have is to raise their prices.
Yeah, absolutely. And some business owners that were interviewed said, I'm probably going to have to close. Some independents, they said, we're probably going to have to close. So, and if it started in California, it's gonna come on.
Roll across.
It's just gonna go right on, don't you think?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. I mean, there'll be repercussions from something like that. But even now, I was listening to something the other day, and they're talking about in some of the major cities now, literally a McDonald's sandwich, hamburgers, and a fries like $20.
Yeah, absolutely.
For one person.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about for 2 or 3 people.
Yeah,
for one person. One person.
Man said he took his family of 3 or 4, I forgot, to Chick-fil-A, and he said every time I'd go it was $50.
Oh yeah.
I mean, definitely.
Well, my wife and I went out to dinner, I guess maybe Monday night, and a place that we enjoy going to. The food's always good, and a lot of times I don't pay a whole lot of attention to what I'm paying for something like that because I want to enjoy my meal.
Yeah, I mean, really.
And we had 2 really good pork chops. They were excellent, excellent. A salad, good salad, and we had tea to drink, and it was right at $40.
Yeah, 2 people,
and, yeah,
$40.
And because if you can imagine, if we'd had any kind of an alcoholic drink,
I was going to say, now think of people that drink.
Yeah, you can add 2 beers, you can add $10 to your meal very very quickly.
$60.
Yeah.
Well, they also interviewed in the article. It was a great article. Some retailers, because I think the retailers in California, their requirement is $15 an hour now. 15. They said we're going to be losing people We're going to be losing people to McDonald's.
Right.
Because they're paying $5 more an hour, $5
Yeah.
more an hour. So now we are going to be losing
Yeah.
personnel. It's bad enough, hard enough to find employees as it is. And now we're going to lose them to a restaurant. You know, these were some of the retailers and other businesses that they were. So, you know, it's just.
But the thing that has shocked me in all this stuff is the retail theft.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people just running into a clothing store and snatching everything off the rack and running back out because, you know, nobody prosecutes them. And I mean, some of that's going on in Raleigh. You know.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
I went to Belk's this past weekend. And I had my granddaughter with me and my daughter, and we were shopping, and my mother. And my daughter and my mother were in another department, and my granddaughter and I were in the makeup. So they were close to the door, and they were getting ready to leave. She had texted me she was getting ready to leave, so I went on to the door. Here comes a guy. His armful was this big.
Oh, wow.
He had on a mask, black mask. I got really scared. I got really scared. I said, y'all just stand here. And he looked at us and he eased on out. This many clothes, men's clothes.
Wow.
It was, I couldn't believe, he was having to just hold them so they wouldn't fall out of his arms. That many. And I'm thinking, oh my God, and now somebody's going to come running. But do you know why stores close? Do you see why stores close? They can't fight with so much of that. And the manager at Belk's told me, oh, this is just happening.
Yeah.
One of the assistant managers, I believe it was. This just happens often here. But I witnessed it, and he went and got in his car nonchalantly in the car, threw the clothes in the car. He didn't speed away like I would have done. You know, if I was a criminal and stealing, shoplifting, I think I would have got away. Just drove away so he wouldn't call attention to himself. But do you want to know why Belk's is now going to have to go up on their prices?
I remember this when I was a child. At the time, I was probably 12, 13, 14 years old. The gentleman who was the manager of, it's a store that was we lived in Roanoke Rapids, and there was a local store, you know, one of the big box store, I call it big box store. And I remember him and my dad were good friends, and he was telling my dad, I would gladly take 20% of what's stolen out of my store every year as my salary if my job was just to go after those folks.
Isn't that something? Yeah.
And that was, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And so now it's obviously a lot worse.
Yeah. And we are having to pay for that person, for that criminal. We're having to pay for their acts of crime when we go to the store because they're going to have to go up in their prices.
Gotta recoup it.
Anyway, well, just got off on another topic with you this morning, Sherrill.
Okay.
That was nice that you were here. But anyway, we're going to take a break. We're going to let Sherrill go to work.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll be right back with you right after this and some more weather.